So when you look at the Green Bay Packer organization, how they've been run, not just recently, but how they have been run for years, for decades, of just the success that they've had building through the draft. Okay. They've taken a whole lot of fire, a whole lot of ridicule drafting the quarterbacks when they did. You take a look at Aaron Rodgers. You have your Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre. You take Aaron Rodgers in the draft when they did, and they allowed him to get comfortable, learn the system, get his feet wet under learning under the best in the game at the time in Brett Favre. And then you look to what they did with Jordan Love, drafting him when they did, and then getting his feet wet, learning from the best in the game at the time in Aaron Rodgers. And then you see the success that Jordan Love is having out there right now. So then it leads you to think, okay, so what's going to happen with this 2024 draft class when we talk the top three prospects of quarterbacks out there: Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. You know the Chicago Bears have the number one draft pick overall. Okay, so that leads us to think, okay, so are they going to take a quarterback? Are they going to take Caleb Williams? I don't seem to think so. I think that they feel they've got their guy in Justin Fields. But here's the thing: if they would have developed this guy differently, if they would have looked to the Green Bay Packers, a team that's within their own division, and then just been like, okay, we feel this guy, Justin Fields, is our quarterback for the future. So let's have him sit a year or two, learn, develop. We know he's raw. Let's have him learn the game, because when you start talking college football to pro football, it's just a different speed altogether. It's two totally different games out there, and you gotta. It takes a whole. It's a big learning curve for these guys. Okay, so that being said, Justin Fields, the Chicago Bears don't know where they are going to go, because they don't know if Justin Fields is their guy or not, because of the way that they brought him into the league, because of the way that they just thrust him into the starting lineup. So is Caleb Williams, our Drake May, Jaden Daniels, wherever they land, are they going to end up being just thrust into the mix, or are they going to look to the Green Bay Packers and how they've done things, how they've fostered what are some other guys? So when you take a look at the greatest athletes of all time at the quarterback position, some of the names out there are, of course, Brett Favre. Okay, so Brett Favre, he wasn't thrown into the starting mix right away. Okay, so it took a while for him to learn the game, develop. Aaron Rodgers, another guy, 4 years, right, of sitting on the bench. Jordan Love, you're seeing the results of what he's out there. I'm not calling him a great by now, but I'm just saying, you see this success that he had out there. Tom Brady's saddest season. You see the success he has. Joe Montana, he sat a season. You look to, Patrick Mahomes, he sat a season. Steve Young, he sat. Other names, Drew Brees, he sat. Dan Marino, he's kind of that exception, right? He was thrown into the mix, but that was 6 games into the season. And then you've got your flops, right? Hey, let's throw this guy into the mix. Jamarcus Russell, how well did that go for him? And then you've got your Ryan Leafs out there, your Johnny Manziels, your Tim Tebow's, take a look at a lot of quarterbacks in the Cleveland Brown history. You've got your Tim Couches out there who are they're thrown into the mix. They're not ready. And then, so why is that? Why do you think that is? I think it is because franchises, um, they've got this win now mentality. There's this level of performance that's required for the front office, the pressure to win games right now. And then it creates this survival state, right? Of just like, oh my gosh, we've got to win now. We've got to get these like at least 9 wins. Otherwise, we're going to lose our job, whether you're a coach, whether you're a GM, defensive coordinator, it doesn't really matter. If you're not winning now, you're not showing the results out there, then you're losing your job. So then naturally coaches get lazy when they start developing quarterbacks and just good talent out there. They get lazy because they don't want to put the effort into developing talent, because they don't have the time for that. They don't have the patience for that. Thankfully, the Green Bay Packers have just run this organization so incredibly well. And we as Packer fans are just spoiled rotten when we start talking how this franchise has been run, how the Green Bay Packers have chose to run this franchise by developing quarterbacks the right way, by developing quarterbacks, by having them sit a couple years, learn different speed, different game. And then you can throw like Jordan Love is a perfect guy to just start talking about right now, And yes, we can't crown this guy. Oh my gosh, he's one of the greatest of all times because he doesn't fall into those mix of names that I just showed you. But I'm talking about those are some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You can make the argument Peyton Manning, obviously, I didn't leave him on that list because he's that guy that's that diamond in the rough. So is your Justin Herbert. So is your Justin Burrow. And then you take a look at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was thrown into the mix his rookie season. He looked like a dumpster fire. And then the Jaguars were like, do we have our guy for the future? We don't know because he looks like crap. And then he goes out and performs and he looks super good his next season, right? So that is another success story. That is a diamond in the rough. Do you think that teams should be developing quarterbacks the way the Packers are, or should they just be, like, hey, listen, we don't have the time for this. Let's throw them into the fire. You take a look at Jim Harbaugh, right? So Jim Harbaugh is a perfect example of he goes to Michigan. They don't look like the program they expected when they hired him, but they gave him the patience. They were patient to get him, allow him to build that program, get the players he wanted in there, get the coaching staff he wanted in there. And then you saw the success. He brings a national championship back to the Michigan Wolverines, something they haven't seen there in a while. And so now they're this winning organization because they were patient. I feel these organizations need to have that same patience when it comes to developing quarterbacks out there. Otherwise, you're doing what the Chicago Bears did to Justin Fields, and now Justin Fields is left like, okay, is this our guy for the future? We have no clue. We've got the number one pick, so we could take a Caleb Williams, but are they going to just throw him into the mix, right away? If Justin Fields has a bad game, like, all right, that's it. Let's get Caleb Williams out there. I mean, I hope as a Packer fan, I hope that's the case because then you just have these organizations that just continue to do it wrong, continue to just throw these players out there and when they're not ready. They're not ready. It's a different game, it's a different speed. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think. First off, who do you think the number one biggest success story is of somebody learning, sitting and learning? Also, who's that biggest flop? It's probably going to be Jamarcus Russell, of guys that have just been thrown into the fire. Also, today's current flop. Who's that quarterback today that has just been thrown into the mix? That is just your Justin Fields, like this big that would be most painful. It's either what's more painful? Is it a guy that just sucks and isn't going to be like your Jamarcus Russell, isn't going to be your guy for the future, or is it your Justin Fields who you got this question mark looming, and if you got the number one pick overall and you could take this quarterback, but it's like, do we waste our pick there when we feel we've got a guy in Justin Fields, but we don't know if we have a guy in Justin Fields? Leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Go Pack.